Hello and welcome. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon, one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network and everything we do. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump and UConn legendary men's basketball player Jake Voskuhl. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large or small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, slip and fall, a car accident, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and decided to stab you, the Finch Firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all across the state of Connecticut. He will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You just have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week, 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains boys and girls in the sport of their choice from the ground up, helps them reach their full potential, be the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. To work with the best, he has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford, Connecticut. Go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. All right. And here we are for the best local sports show. Well, not local sports show. I would say national local sports show in the area. College Football Clarity with myself, Steve Cully, none other than the best podcast host in the universe. And with me, Rocky Corigliano from the Rock Pile. And wow, I watched your shows over the weekend. I thought they were outstanding. I love the Rome coach. Man, he was awesome. I did the broadcast for the game, and they are unbelievable. And I just want to see if I get my timeline right. Was it recently that Norris hit a game-winning shot?
Yeah, so the day before you guys called that game on Saturday, I think
that was against New Hartford. That's right.
It was against New Hartford. He hit the step back three at the buzzer, which was a home game. The place went nuts.
God, man. I watched them, and, you know, they played a Madison team. They were down initially, and it just amazed me that they never panicked. They always kept their composure, and I thought their coach did a phenomenal job because Hammond got in foul trouble, which limited what they could do. But Stovall and Norris stepped up tremendously, and Norris, he is a spectacular talent. Is he a senior?
He is. So he's been Coach Medicis is actually a friend of mine and has been on. Started off with coming on with me as a guest host when I was on the radio at WKL, and then that turned into at every Saturday morning thing on the radio with me for years. And he's been on the show with me here on the weekends, but he's got kids like I do, so he's been running around. But he's a friend of mine, and I'll say this is, the last few years, he's played a chaos system where it's a full court press.
Yes,
they run up and down. This year it's a little bit different because he's got the Hammond kid, he's got Serafia, Ethan Stovall. He doesn't want to get those guys in foul trouble. He tries to keep them on the floor so they don't press as much. But he's done a really
When they
good job with the
do,
program.
when they do press, it causes chaos.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing I noticed is when they have to go into a half court offense, they're not as effective. When they run and they cause chaos, they dominate and they have so much talent.
Yeah.
And I know that I think they can go far, right?
Yeah, I mean, last year's team went 17-1. They got beat to Liverpool in the semifinals in a really tough game where they came all the way back. This year's team's a little bit different. They don't run and gun as much. They
Right.
got the big kid, the big 6'8" kid,
Yes, yes.
Cordell Williams, who had a
Williams.
really good game
Yeah.
the other night. But
I
it's a
love
fun
him.
group. He's done a really good job with the program. It's come a long ways since
And
he's
he's
been
only
there.
a junior, Williams, which I was shocked at too.
Yep, he's
So
a junior.
I was just wondering, is Norris, is he playing college anywhere?
I think he has some looks. I'm really not sure where, if it's any Division III schools, stuff like that. I'm not sure, the academic piece, how the grades are, but, the
He's
thing
a
that's
player.
unique about him, he's a left-hander. He's smooth with the
Yes.
basketball. He's not scared of the big shot, and, he had a
No.
big shot the other night too. They got beat, at home to Bishop Ludden, who's, I think, 12th in the state.
Bishop
Uh,
Ludden
they
Grimes. I hate
they
them. Yeah, I
they,
called their
RFA got beat by 3, and Sarafia had the ball. They were down 2 with about 20 seconds to go with the ball in his hands. He missed one. They had a shot at the end again. But it was a really good game. They'll make a run in the sectionals. They're playing a really good non-conference schedule to
They
set
do. They
them up
play very tough
for the league.
non-con.
Yeah, so it'll be fun finish.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that because I enjoy watching them, and I was very, very impressed with their talent and their coach and the poise that they have as a team. Because you don't usually see that at the high school level. So you got it right for the college football playoffs. I believe you went with Miami. I went with
I'm
Ole
on a
Miss.
roll, man. I'm on a roll picking these games.
I don't think you've missed.
I'm
I
on
don't think.
fire. FanDuel, let's go.
I mean, my God, we got to start doing parlays. But yeah, the Miami game and Ole Miss was very interesting because I mean, it was really the first time this playoffs that I saw Carson Beck look like the quarterback that he was kind of intended to be. He's been more of like a game manager, I think, and this game was by far his best game. And Miami jumped out to it was, I believe it was 17-13 at halftime. They started off with a 3-0 lead, but Mississippi came back. And then the third quarter, not much happened. Ole Miss kicked the field goal. And then the fourth quarter is where things got interesting. Miami was able to get the 2 touchdowns, and Ole Miss scored 11 points and finished short. Trinidad Chambliss had, he didn't put up the numbers he traditionally puts up. So that was interesting to me. But Miami, and you talked about this before, was their dominance in the trenches. And I think that stood out here. You could see up front they were better on both sides of the ball, much better, more talented than Ole Miss. But what were your thoughts on this game? I mean, they outgained Ole Miss 459 to 398. They did have the one turnover. They had 28 first downs, but what got me was even though they had 10 penalties, which is crazy, they were 11 of 19 on third down. And then they were 2 for 2 on fourth down. And then the time of possession, it was 41 to 18. That reminds me of my favorite team, the New York Giants in 1990, when they used to do stuff like that. So what were your thoughts on this game?
Well, I'll tell you the stat that surprised me the most, and you're right. I said that Miami, in the trenches on both sides of the ball are really good. That's really what's carried them in this playoff. And I said they're built like a Big Ten team. They remind me of the Michigan team that won a national championship 2 years ago,
Yep.
where they were really good on the offensive line. They like to run the football. Defensively, they're really good up front. But here's a crazy stat, and I had to go back and double check the other night. Ole Miss had 4 sacks against Miami. Miami, everybody talked about Bain and the Messidor kid on defense. Miami had 1 sack in that game
One
defensively. So
sack, yes.
I thought Old Miss's defensive line did a really good job putting pressure on Carson Beck. But at the end of the day,
They
Miami,
did.
I think, had over close to 200 yards rushing. And Carson Beck, man, that last drive, that was a big time drive at the end of the game in the fourth quarter that he put on. That's the Carson Beck I think that everybody thought we were going to see going into the season. But listen, credit
Exactly.
Ole Miss, because
Yeah.
Ole Miss had plenty of chances to win that game. They just got worn down at the end.
I thought so too. Miami definitely, I mean, Miami definitely wore them down. I think the time of possession was key. You rarely see teams in this day and age have 40 minutes plus time of possession, and Ole Miss only had 18. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They had 191 yards rushing, but I mean they had 51 attempts,
Yeah.
and you're right. That's a Big Ten team. A Big Ten team runs the ball 50 times a game for 200 yards. And they average 3.7 yards a carry, which isn't anything special, but they did it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Ole Miss had 121 yards rushing on 21 carries, averaged 5.8 yards a carry. The penalties was what shocked me the most. Miami to get penalized 10 times for 74 yards, and Ole Miss only was penalized 4 times for 34 yards. I was very, very surprised because Mario Cristobal, his teams have not been this undisciplined. They've been undisciplined at times, but I haven't seen them like this. So I expected Ole Miss to jump all over and take advantage, but they just didn't have the ball enough. I
Mhm.
think if the time of possession was a little more equal, if Miami didn't hold on to the ball and have those long drives, that it would have ended much, much different than it did. But yeah, I give Ole Miss all the credit in the world. I mean, Lane Kiffin called back 2 of his coaches this week. So Ole Miss had to coach with their other guys, and Golden knew that. I mean, they were in constant communication, and he said, we have a huge staff. If they pull a couple guys, we're fine. But I do have to say, Charlie Weiss Jr., he is a star in the making in my mind. I think we'll see him as a head coach in the next few years. And he just really impressed me throughout the playoffs with the way that he put the game plans together and, being able to call the plays during the season. I thought he did a great job working with Lane Kiffin. But I think in the next year or two, he's got to get a head coaching job. And I know he's young, but what were your thoughts on him?
Oh, I thought he was phenomenal. I thought he's called 2 great games in the playoff. He was really good all season, but I think you gotta remember this. He was on the sideline with dad at Notre Dame as a young kid.
I
So
know, I
he's been
know.
around football his entire
His
life.
entire life.
I
Yeah,
think he's one and done at LSU. I think he's next year with Lane Kiffin, and I think
that's
after
right.
next year, I think he gets a big time job somewhere, because he did a great job in trying to manage recruiting for LSU and getting ready for this game. Now, I know we
Yeah.
talked about the Ohio State piece where Brian Hartline got relieved of calling plays and Ryan Day took over calling plays because he couldn't handle really going back and forth because he got the head job at South Florida. So it's a
Well,
lot of work.
he
Now
didn't
I
think he could handle it, but
now I know Weiss is a coordinator versus the head coach, but you're still doing double duty. And he didn't
Mhm.
seem to blink. They had every opportunity. I thought Ole Miss's offense and defensive lines played as good as anybody against Miami. They still had over 100 yards rushing for Ole Miss, and they got
Yeah,
to the quarterback. So up front, they did really well. And listen, it was a good game. They could have called pass interference at the end. I
right.
know Ole Miss fans wanted a hold on
Well,
it, and I think the referee said they were both holding. It could have went either way. I was good with a no call, but if you want to call it and give him another shot, I would have been okay with that too. But what a great football. We've been blessed with a lot of good games throughout this playoff.
finally, though,
Yep.
finally for the college football playoffs, I give them credit for that. Um, Trinidad Chambliss, this was more of his swan song, and they already got his replacement. They from the transfer portal. I thought he was 23 of 37. He threw a touchdown. He just was, for a guy who came from freaking Ferris State to perform the way he did. I thought he was incredible. I think that he is probably got to be maybe a first round pick, early second tops, just because we only got to see him play 1 year of FBS football, but he did play in the SEC and he tore it up. What are your thoughts on Chambliss and where he may land?
Well, I think what's gonna knock his draft status. Well, first of all, I hope he gets granted. I know he's fighting it. It's going to the legal system to see if he comes back for another year. I know
Yeah,
they said
right.
no, but he's gonna try to fight it. And I hope the NCAA does something right because they don't do much right, but I hope they get this right and let him come back because I want to see him another year in college football. The
I
only
do too.
knock on him, Steve, that I've heard and I've read on from everywhere is he's not very tall. I think he's like
No, no.
5'11". But I think people watching him play in the big stage at the end of the year is going to help. I think the system playing in Lane Kiffin's pro style offense is going to help. But a lot
Exactly.
of a lot of people are saying the height may hurt his status. But I'll tell you what, if he does go to the NFL and doesn't come back, whoever gets him is getting a winner. It's getting a kid that's been battle
100%.
tested that I will pull for, I will cheer for. I hope he gets an opportunity. Like I said, I'm a college guy. I want to see him one more year at Ole Miss, and I'm sure Pete Golden and that Ole Miss team does too.
Yeah, and I think with the appeals process that'll go through, he'll have every opportunity to get that waiver to come back. And I agree with you. I think if he gets one more year at this level, he's a Heisman candidate next year, and first round draft pick for sure. There's no question about it. Um, Lacey again. I mean, I wish they had the ball longer. I wish they had more possessions
Hmm.
because he is so dynamic and so fun to watch. I mean, he had 11 carries for 103 yards, and he had that 75-yard run or whatever it was. He is again. He's another one. Someone so special to watch, and someone that I think is going to be dynamic pro wherever he lands. But his style of running is a little bit different. He's got that sixth gear that he can break away from people that you don't always see from running backs. I was impressed with him. I thought he did a phenomenal job. What were your thoughts on Lacey?
Yeah, I mean, he had the big run, and then he was battling a hamstring injury. So in
Yeah,
the second half, they kind of didn't use him that much. They threw the ball a little bit more in the second half, and like I said, they really found ways to run the football. And I remember the one show we talked about. I said Ole Miss is like that full court let's run up and down and
Running gun, yes.
Yep, and that Miami was gonna be the half court offense where they wanna pound the ball, they wanna slow you down, and listen, they dominated the time of possession, and I don't think Mario Cristobal gets enough credit. I think a lot of
He
people
doesn't.
knock him when he was at Oregon, say, "Well, he really never won a big game at Oregon, and now he comes home to Miami." I would disagree and think that he built Oregon, up for Dan Lanning, and
He
Dan
did.
Lanning has taken it to another level. And Miami's got a good shot, and I know we'll talk about that game and see who we both like, but I would not overlook Miami having a chance to win this whole thing. But again, going back to Lacey, a guy that he reminds me of, and I can't believe I'm going to say this because I'm a Michigan guy, I think is Eddie George. I think it's Eddie George because his
That's a good
style
comparison. Okay.
is
I'll
he's
take
more of
that.
that straight up back,
Yes.
runs hard. He's got
Yeah.
that breakaway speed, but reminds me a lot of Eddie George.
Right. Right. And, again, I go back to, we talked about this. Miami technically wasn't even supposed to be in the playoffs.
Nope.
They were the best team in the ACC. They don't win the ACC championship. They don't even get to play for it.
Yep.
And there's the argument about Notre Dame getting in, Alabama getting in, and Miami getting in, and Notre Dame getting left out. Miami deserved to be in, and but they by far were one of the most talented teams, and
Absolutely.
they have shown it. And it's a shame that they didn't get an opportunity to play in the ACC championship. But I think the playoffs have definitely proved their worth. It proved that the committee got it right by putting them in.
Yeah, I mean,
And
think of last year when Ohio State didn't even play for a Big Ten championship and snuck into the playoff. They got into the playoff and went on that big run and won a national championship. And I think as we talked about a few shows ago is Miami belonged in over Notre Dame. That was the comparison because Miami beat them head to head.
head-to-head,
The
yep,
problem that I had was Notre Dame was better than Tulane and Notre Dame was better than
better
James
than James
Madison.
Madison. Correct.
That's probably the argument, but yeah, man, I mean, Miami's built different to me. They look like a Big Ten team. The quarterback, if he plays well enough and they can find a way to do anything against that Indiana defense, they got a shot to win on Monday night.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you there. The committee had the rule that the top 5 highest ranked conference champions get in, and nobody expected the ACC champion to be 7-5
No.
or 8-5 or whatever, and end up not ranked. So you put in James Madison, you put in Tulane, and we expected one group of 5 team to get in. We didn't expect 2, but I think that Notre Dame not getting that spot, and they changed the rules now because of it.
Yep.
So now if Notre Dame finishes in the top 12, they get an automatic bid. And they still will take the group of 5 school. But I agree with you there. And Miami being like a Big Ten team, I think definitely, because I never thought about that until you said it. And then I went back and I looked at their games throughout the season. And you're right. They played really like a Big Ten team because Carson Beck was he was solid, but he was not spectacular. He was more of that game manager. They relied on the run game and they played ferocious defense. And in the SEC, that is difficult for other teams to match up with. They're not used to a team
No.
that runs the ball like 50 times a game like this. They're not used to a team that has a defense that swarms like Miami does. It almost reminds me, because I played against Miami when they won the national championship. They had Ken Dorsey, Willis McGahee, all those guys, and they were very similar. They were basic on offense. They just pounded the ball with McGahee. Ken Dorsey would throw the ball to Andre, the receiver who ended up with Houston.
Andre Johnson.
Andre Johnson, yes. They throw to Andre Johnson, And then defensively, my God, it was Vince Wilfork, William Joseph. I played against Jerome McDougal, the two linebackers, DJ Williams and Jonathan Vilma. They were and Sean Taylor. I mean, they were ferocious defensively. So I see such similarities between the teams, and I think
Yep.
that's what gave them an advantage when I went back and looked through the SEC. So your analysis of Miami was spot on, and I had
Yeah.
never thought of them that way.
And I'd even argue and say this is I think they're built like a Big Ten team, traditional Big Ten team. And then you look at Ohio State with all the athletes that they have on the perimeter. Ohio State's more, to me, I think they've always been like an SEC team. They want to
Yes,
spread you
yes,
out. They want to attack you on the perimeter. They want to go east to west, get their guys in space. And then you look at Miami, it's, they've won games in the trenches,
yes,
and
yep.
they play really good defense up front and they run the football. So we're in for a good one Monday night.
So Indiana and Oregon. We talked about this, and you were spot on with your prediction. You did say if Oregon, can explode offensively, that would be their only opportunity to defeat Houston. Indiana, but Oregon was going to have trouble against the Kurt Signetti defense. That's exactly what happened. But I did not like going into halftime. I was blown away. I mean, you're talking they're up by it was 21, 14.
It
It
was
was 35 nothing at halftime. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this can't be real. I mean, this is Dante Moore. I mean, this how did this happen? And it was just shocking to me to see Indiana just they beat them during the season. I get that. And it's very difficult to beat teams twice in the same season. So I was expecting Oregon to come out and have a better showing, but they just had three massive turnovers, which put them right behind the eight ball. And they actually outgained Indiana 378 to 362.
yeah.
They had more first downs. The penalties were the same, but third downs, Indiana was 11 for 14. My Oregon was 8 for 13. Fourth down, that was another thing. Oregon was 0 for 2 on fourth down, and Indiana controlled the time of possession a little bit more, 31 minutes to 28 minutes for Oregon. Mendoza, 17 for 25 touchdowns, 177 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, I never expected that. And then, Oregon, Dante Moore, he was 24 of 39. He had 2 TDs, the one interception, but the fumbles, the turnovers killed him, and that is what put them behind the eight ball. And like you said, if you get behind on a Kurt Signetti team, you're going to have a lot. They're tough enough to beat straight up. When you got to climb Mount Everest with 20 pounds on your back, it's going to be a little difficult. So I was blown away by this. I was blown away. Dante Moore had the interception and the fumbles. But again, like you said, Kurt Signetti, the defense, they led the way. And, Indiana ended up rushing for 185 yards total on 40 carries. Their running backs, I just say they go into beast mode. They just run angry, and they get so many yards after contact as well. They got 2 really good backs. What were your thoughts on this game?
Well, I was going back through the numbers here, and in the 2 playoff games that Indiana's had, they've ran the ball 90 times to 35 passes.
That's what I
And
couldn't believe. Yeah.
yeah,
with
And,
the
you know,
Heisman
the
Trophy winner.
thing is, when we go to talk about the game Monday night, I really have been trying to go through and really I love watching game tape. I love watching game tape. I love
You're like
listening to
me,
talk
yes,
radio, like, that's what I do. People, when they ride with me, they're bored because that's all you
because
listen
you
to
listen
is
to the
sports radio.
podcast. Yeah, like
And
me.
and and I love listening. I love listening to people break down the games. I don't know many flaws that Indiana has. Um, they they don't make a lot of mistakes. I was really impressed again. Indiana had, I think, 9 or 10 tackles for a loss. They ran the ball 40 times, and I think what I'm really impressed at the most, they like to take chances. So if it's 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, they'll take
They're
chances
they're going
downfield.
downtown. Yep.
And man, I'll tell you
100%.
what, I haven't seen a lot of Mendoza. I've seen him more late in the year than I have early in the year. He's so accurate, throwing the football.
Yes.
He's got,
Yes.
you know,
And
Charlie Becker, the receivers. He's got Surratt, the other receiver. It's a really good crew. But that defense, man, they are tough against the run. And if you
Jesus.
cannot run the ball against Indiana, you are set up for your quarterback to take a beating against that secondary on the back end. So I was extremely impressed with Indiana. Not saying I was surprised. I did not think it'd
No,
be like that.
you
They
didn't
got
think it
their
would be
you
like
know
that.
what's kicked. Um, and here's the other thing. Dan Lanning hasn't been big in big games. He's laid an egg
That's
in
what
big games.
he's been criticized for. Yeah.
And I like him. I think he's a really good coach.
Yeah.
I think Oregon next year is gonna be right back in it again. They got some
They
good
will.
good players coming in. They did well in the portal again.
They did. Yeah.
You know, when Dante Moore's coming back, Dylan Raiola, the quarterback from Nebraska,
Coming
um,
in.
is
Yep.
coming in. He'll back up more. But that game, I really think, Steve, is one of the reasons why Dante Moore came back. He didn't play well. You know,
No.
he put up some numbers, but turnovers in the red zone. You can't give good teams a short field to work with.
3
They
turnovers.
did that. Indiana made him pay. He didn't protect the ball, you know, inside his own 20-yard line, you know, a couple times. So some
Yeah.
mistakes,
Gave him a
but
short field.
you know, that quarterback class coming back next year is going to be really good. That draft class, there's 5 or 6 quarterbacks next year, including Archie Manning if he
Arch
comes
Manning.
out. So
He's coming. He said he's coming back. So I hope. I don't think he should come out. He needs to stay another year. I just thought he was too inconsistent. But yeah, the quarterback class next year
crazy.
is going to be something special. The quarterback class this year is kind of mid range. It's not as good as we've typically seen. Mendoza, you know, I wanted to ask you because the one thing I notice about him, he seems to have great pocket presence, great pocket awareness, where, you know, he doesn't look to take off and run immediately. He can and he does, but he'll work around the pocket and he never panics, keeps his composure, throws the ball downfield. That's what I wanted to see if you thought the same about his pocket presence and awareness.
And here's another comparison. I'm not saying that he's this guy, but he reminds me of a Tom Brady in the pocket because I don't think Mendoza's a great athlete. He moves very well in the pocket. He moves great
Right.
side to side. He made a big play on his feet on 3rd and long. He
He
scrambled,
did
you know, for a first down. So I'm
for
not
the
saying he's a bad athlete. But I think not only his poise, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He doesn't really get rattled. You know, we really haven't
no,
seen I'd like to see if
nobody gets to
Indiana
him.
gets behind,
Yes,
and I'm not
everyone
saying
has
3
said that.
points, 4 points. I wanna see if they're behind a touchdown, 10 points, what's gonna be the mentality of that team because they haven't really been behind all year,
No,
you
no,
know?
they've dominated all year, like you said. You're
So,
right.
but I think he's gonna be a great pro. I think he's a good kid. His story is phenomenal,
It is.
that how he got to where he was at, you know, today, and he's from Miami. He played high school football, I
It
think
was huge
20
for them.
minutes from the stadium.
Yeah,
Miami didn't want him. They said he was a two-star recruit,
yeah.
and here
And
he is coming back to his hometown with a chance to win a national champion. I mean, it's a
it's
storybook
a great
season,
story.
you
Yeah.
know, storybook career. Um, my question to you is the story with Indiana. what Cignetti's done? Is that the key story, or is it, people saying it is the U back, this year with this team? And I think you can make a good argument. What's your thoughts?
I think it's exciting because we have waited decades to see the U be the U. They struggled for so many years with different coaches, and they leave the Big East dismantles. They
Yep.
go to the ACC, and that was my gripe about the big. We dismantled the Big East, and everyone from the Big East in football, nobody has played for a conference championship, done anything special, gone to the playoffs. The only team that did was 2007 Boston College with Matt Ryan. Other than that, the Big East teams who left, for greener pastures haven't done well, and one of them was Miami.
Yep.
And we have been waiting to see the U come back, and that's what I think is so exciting. I think that Mario Cristobal has gotten the U back. I mean, seeing Michael Irvin on the sidelines going ballistic. He's out of his mind, but he's running up and down the field. He's keeping guys pumped up. I love that because that's what they used to be. They used to. I think I saw Clinton Portis too. They used to always have their old players there, and I think that made an impact on the guys who were playing when they see the guys from yesteryear who had success, and it makes a difference. And it is a huge story to see the U back, to see the U in a national title game for the first time since 2003, I believe, because we played them in 02 and they lost in 03 to Ohio State on that BS pass interference call. Yep. But they won in 01. So I think this is the magical storyline that the College Football Playoff Committee could not have asked for anything better. You have the Indiana Hoosiers, who won their first Big Ten championship since 1967. They've had back-to-back 10-win seasons for the first time since the 50s. They're 15-0. They're the only team that has made it to the finals that had a bye, and that's another thing.
Yep.
So that makes it such a great game. We're gonna do, and I hope I can get you. We're gonna do a live watch along for the championship game down at Tony's. If you're able to log on with us, we're going to do it, and it's always fun. We did it last year. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a great crowd. Indiana, for them to do what they have done, for Curt Cignetti to get them to 15-0, I just think is probably one of the greatest seasons in the history of college football, because they played in arguably the toughest conference. The SEC, didn't have the power that they normally do. And people blame that on NIL and money and the transfer portal, because they're saying that the money's up north and the Big Ten schools have more financial backers, and that, the SEC was winning because they recruited better. They could get kids better. They could get them developed. Mm-hmm. And now they're not getting those kids. Now they can go up north to an Ohio State, to a Michigan, to a Penn State, to Oregon, and have more money. And I think that's what's hurting the SEC. I really do. But yes, I think you could not write a better story than the U being back in a national championship game. Mm-hmm. The Indiana Hoosiers, Rock, if you and I met and talked last year, and we both, were told Indiana was going to be in the national championship game. I mean, I would think I'd be on another planet. I would never have expected this. And even when the playoffs started, I had doubts. I thought, Ole Miss, Alabama, one of the SEC teams was going to plow through, and they didn't. And so to me, that just blows my mind, because you never would have expected this. And I've talked to several people, and I've listened, like you, to podcasts. People think if Indiana wins this game, they would be in the conversation for being one of the best teams ever. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I think if they win the game, and again, we'll give our picks and stuff, but I think it's the greatest turnaround and one of the greatest sports stories since I've been alive, and I'm 46 years old. And
Right.
if you would take away the records, you would say this is David against Goliath, and Miami we would think on paper, would be a heavy favorite against Indiana. That's a
Exactly.
basketball school. And here you are, it's the other way around, where I think it's an 8.5-point line, which really means it's 11.5, because Miami's at home probably getting 3 points taken off. And if you would have told me that the job that Kurt Cignetti, and I said this before, the guy probably turned millions of dollars away from coaching at LSU, coaching at Michigan, coaching at Penn State, all these big time jobs that were open. The guy decided to stay at Indiana and coach football. And I know we talked about the NIL and all that, that's different, but I think that story alone is unreal. And, I think they're America's team. I think people want to see them win because of the story, but you also have people I think are getting sick of the Kurt Cignetti faces on the sideline that they show throughout the course of the game. I love it. I love them. But here's something I'm going to throw at you. I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I heard this today, and I said, I didn't think about this. At the end of the season, what if Kurt Cignetti, everybody's been saying he's rumored for the Pittsburgh Steelers job, that he would be the perfect fit down in Pittsburgh. He's from around that area, and they're saying that they would throw the kitchen sink at him to bring him to Pittsburgh to be the head coach. Any shot you think he leaves to go there?
I read that too. First of all, Mike Tomlin, one of the best, never had a losing season. He did the most with the least, won a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Sad to see him go. I think they will. They have to make a splash with this hire, and I think they would throw. I think they'd back the Brinks truck up to Cignetti's house to try to get him. Cignetti, I see, is different as Lane Kiffin. Cignetti has loyalty. I think he has more principles. I think that he would stay. I don't think he's leaving Indiana. Now, if he wins the national championship, then I think there's a chance they could get him. If he wins, if he finishes the job, he's got back-to-back 10-win seasons. They go 16-0, win the national championship. Maybe he does leave. Maybe
I think it's a possibility. I do. I think it's a possibility if he wins it.
I didn't, but if they win, and Rooney backs the Brinks truck up to Cignetti's house, they need
a chance.
They need to get this hire right.
Yeah.
And I think that he would absolutely interview, and I think that he would consider it for sure. I do. Just because he can show how great he really is, because there's not many coaches who win a national championship in college, go to the NFL, win a Super Bowl, or have a ton of success.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to. I'd love to see what he does. I would love to see what he would do in the NFL.
It's an option. I heard it today. I said, you know what? I didn't think of it, but we'll see. I mean, Jim Harbaugh won a national championship and went to the went to the Chargers the following year. Now, there were some allegations against Michigan, and he probably was going to get thrown the death penalty.
Yeah.
But hey, he won a title and left. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. That is a great question, and it's going to be great to follow that because, it's definitely anything's possible.
Yeah.
I think if they win, yeah, I think if they win, I think he would consider it. But with his principles, with his loyalty, I think it would take a lot to get him, and he wants to stay, but some things are too good to pass up, and Pittsburgh can give him that. So I guess stay tuned. I mean, we'll have to see what happens. So the portal has been open. My friend Chris D, he always gets me. He wanted to know what I thought of UConn signing the Tennessee quarterback, and he's the athletic director I call Saint Benedict, and he was on Twitter bragging about UConn's increase NIL. Thank you, Chris. He always finds me. He always gives me shit. I think that UConn, they got a good receiver from Toledo. They got two good quarterbacks. They got a D lineman from Texas. I think they've done very well with what the resources they have financially. And, Candle put together a good staff. He's had to rebuild his team. I know they got the Tennessee QB today. I know. I am you're not my co-host. You might as well be. I told you I'll give you $1,000. I'll Venmo you $1,000 right now if I can get your identity. And you should be a sponsor, not a co-host. You should be my sponsor. But yeah, no, the portal has been blowing up, and they made it to 15 days, and it's kind of been crazier than they expected. They thought, okay, we'll cut it to 15 days. We looked yesterday. I do a recruiting show with the Trench Mob, which is a group led by a friend of mine, a UConn alum, Julius Williams, down in Atlanta. They do 5v5, which is now growing big, which is something I want to do around here. Instead of 7-on-7, Christy, you're such an ass. Trench Mob that does 5v5, which is offensive linemen versus defensive linemen. And they have competitions, and they go rounds, like 10 rounds. So it's picking up in popularity. Julius, his team, his organization is the best in the country. He sent more kids. He has the highest percentage of sending kids to Division I schools on scholarship. And they had their first competition last weekend. They absolutely dominated. And I want to do it around here. I want to get a 5v5 team around here because 7-on-7 is so popular. I would love to work with linemen, and I think we could do something with it. I've been trying to get my my other co-host Frank Cristiano to help me put it together. But I think that the line part of it is huge, but the transfer portal, they expected it to limit things by cutting it to 15 days, and it's had the opposite effect. Brian Kelly was 5-3. He gets fired. I know he was 2-3 in the SEC, and I don't like Brian Kelly anyway. But more coaches got fired, and more kids got into the portal earlier because there was only a 15-day period.
Yep.
And I think the NCAA botched this by changing. It used to be a month. There used to be 2 portals. Now there's 1. We looked yesterday, Rock. There were 10,000 kids in the portal. 38% of them have been signed. There's still around 7,000 plus kids who haven't been signed. And, they have from now until whenever to get picked up, but it's usually during the portal period when they do. I just think that they got to do something to put some guardrails on this, some parameters, because there's going to be kids left out. There's going to be kids who are going to have to crawl back to their old school and ask for their spot back. I did a show with a UConn alum yesterday. He told me that his daughter's boyfriend is a punter at FAU, entered the transfer portal. He was kicked out of his housing that day, had to move out.
Wow.
He's like, you could stay here. It's going to be $100 a day. They kicked him out of the housing and he had to go stay in a hotel. And he ended up transferring. He ended up going to Mercer. But that's a thing that's crazy to me is I don't know who's advising these kids about going into the portal. And I think a lot of them think the grass is always greener. They want that money. They want that adulation. They all think they're going to the Power Four schools. And Julius said this on the show yesterday. He said, parents, kids, if you're not being recruited in high school by a Power Four school and you're holding out and you have offers and you haven't committed, you better commit. If you're in the transfer portal and you're waiting on a Power Four school and you have offers, you better commit, because you're going to wind up with nothing. And then you're going to either have to move down or you're going to have to go back to your school. Good. Leave them out. Sick of the delusional, spoiled generation. There's consequences to disloyalty. Chris D says, fuck them. Chris D, remember, I got yelled at by Joe Figliano's father for saying he abandoned his team and quit on his team. So what are your thoughts on that? 10,000 kids were in the portal. We still have 7,000 unsigned.
I feel sorry for the high school kids.
They're the ones that get hurt the most, yes.
I feel sorry for them because you and I were there, right? We were highly recruited kids out of high school when we were sending VHS tapes to schools, and now it's not VHS tapes, it's huddle and all that stuff. But those are the kids I feel sorry for because they don't get an opportunity. And I get it, because if a coach has the opportunity to pick up a junior in a transfer portal that's played 3 to 4 years of college football versus, a freshman out of high school, you're going to take the chance on the kid that's played 3 years of college football and pass up on the freshman that would be a freshman coming out of high school. So I feel sorry for the high school kids. And the other thing, some of these teams, I think James Franklin did a phenomenal job in the portal. I think Kyle Whittingham, the new Michigan coach right now, I think they're top 15 in the portal. I think he hit a home run. So I think some teams hit home runs. And, again, I also feel sorry. You mentioned the amount of kids that are still in there. How about the kids that stay in there and don't even go back to school, and they're not even playing football next year? Or their spot at their old school is filled up, and they go to another school where it's not maybe as big of a school as they had come from. So I don't know who gives these kids advice. I don't know who the agents and all that stuff is, but some of them get really, really bad advice. And some of these guys that are staying, like Dante Moore, who's going to stay put, is going to make $4 to $6 million, which is more than what he probably would make going to the NFL next year.
He would as a rookie. Yes, 100%. Quickly, Indiana, Miami, national championship game, storybook, a storybook, a movie. I don't know, whatever you could do with it. Indiana and Miami are very similar with how they're built. They're both physical up front, defensively, on their D line, their O line. I think Mendoza is a much better quarterback than Carson Beck is. Miami has incredible talent at the receiver position. Indiana has incredible talent at the receiver position. The running back position, I give to Indiana. Miami has good running backs, but Indiana's backs, they just run angry and they're physical. The defenses, they're just stout. They force turnovers. Signetti does not make mistakes. So Give me your analysis for this game.
Well, I'll make it short and sweet for you. Is I somehow, some shape or form, Miami has got to stay committed to trying to run the football against Indiana. Alabama couldn't, Oregon couldn't do it. Nobody's been able to run the ball against Indiana. And here's the other thing too: Oregon had one of the best offensive lines in the country and couldn't
Correct.
run the football against Indiana. So that's one thing. Can they stay committed to running the ball? Mark Fletcher, they have to find a way to get him the ball, to get Malachi Tony the ball in space. I think will be huge for Miami because if they can run the ball just a little bit, and I'm not even saying they got to rush for over 100 yards. If they can run the ball 60, 70 yards and have some type of threat on the ground, I think they got a realistic shot to potentially
And not
keep
turn the
this game
ball over.
close, not turn it over. Is it going to be the Carson Beck that can manage the game and make big throws under pressure? Or is it going to be the Carson Beck that we've seen turn it over the first part of the year? So we don't know what team's going to show up that wise. And I think for Indiana, it's real easy. They have the best offensive line and best defensive line in the country. Nobody's been able to run the ball against them. And the flip side of it, like I said to you earlier, in the 2 playoff games, Steve, they've ran the ball 90 times and have only thrown it 35 times. But of the
Which is
35
crazy.
passes, Mendoza's got 5 incomplete passes in
Yeah,
2
I know.
games,
I saw
which
that.
is unheard of.
And the
Um,
touchdowns. Yeah, it's
Now,
crazy.
I do think where Miami may have the advantage, and like I said, I tried to look up and down to see where the advantage is. I think the Miami secondary is
Secondary.
really aggressive
I
where
was
they
gonna say the
play.
same. Yep.
They dropped a lot of interceptions.
Yeah,
That last game, they dropped a lot of them.
they did.
The Miami corners are gonna play up. Can
They're
Mendoza make the one-on-one
physical.
shots down the field? With Surratt and Becker, we'll have to see what happens, but, um, I don't know if you want me to give you my score prediction of who I like, or you wanna give yours first?
I wanna hear yours first. You can get
Alright,
both.
I really wanted to keep this game. I was like maybe a 3, 4-point game because I really do think Indiana can win this game. I really, really do think. I think the last line I checked, Steve, today was 8.5.
It is
So I
8.
figured it's probably 11.5 because they're playing in Miami, so you figure the home team gets at least 3. So I said, "Okay, it's 11.5. Let's give them the 3. It's 8.5." End of the day, I don't see where Indiana, gives up that many points. So I like Indiana 28-13 in this game. I just can't find the flaw, Steve. I can't find a way where my unless Indiana just comes out and Mendoza turns it over, they fumble, special teams comes into play, maybe a botch punt or they give up a special teams touchdown, like
Yeah,
something like that happening. It hasn't happened all season.
yeah.
So can they blow up this game? They sure can. They absolutely can. They could have a bad game. But at the end of the day, I just think the story's too good for me, and I'm gonna ride with Signetti. I think I can't wait for the post game if they win to hear his speech, to see if he
Mendoza.
actually cracks a smile over under and how many times he gives that look, that facial expression on the
Love it.
sideline.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna go Indiana 28-13.
I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. Um, Indiana, it's their year. It's their time. I think they match up well against Miami. Um, I think they have the advantage running the ball in the trenches. I think that they will pound it with their 2 backs. Mendoza will be Mendoza. He'll be efficient. You're right about the secondary. Can the receivers get space?
Mhm.
Can they get open against the secondary? Can Mendoza make throws in those tight windows? Because, like you said, he's more of a Tom Brady. He's not a gunslinger. He knows where to go with the ball. He's got to make the throws. And defensively, can they stop the run?
Mhm.
I think they can. I think that it will be a very interesting game. I don't know that I don't know that Miami's going to score 3 touchdowns on them. I think Indiana, again, it's their year. They have an explosive offense. And like you said, they've run the ball 90 times. Mendoza in 2 games, 5 incompletions.
Yeah.
I got to go with Indiana as well. And I was going to go 35-14.
Okay.
So,
I could
yeah.
see that happen. I can see Indiana running away with this thing, or I can see them maybe keeping it one score game, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see for sure. But great job. Miami will win and bow because Cully. You know what, Chris D? Be a sponsor, goddammit. Or give me. I swear I'll Venmo you $1,000 if I find out your identity. Just give me your Batman right now. I call Chris D Batman because we have no idea. He knows everything about me, and he knows when I get yelled at on air, and he knows when I get yelled at off air. So I want to find out who he is. He's Batman right now. He's like Bruce Wayne walking around. I don't know who he is, but great show. Thank you so much again for doing some college football clarity. And we'll definitely do a recap next week and talk more.
Sounds good.
But phenomenal predictions. The Rock from the Rock Pile. He's got shows Thursday and over the weekend, which I watched, which was awesome. It's Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday mornings usually 9 to 10. The Mohawk Valley Sports Watch.
And do you have a YouTube channel?
I do, the Rock Pile Sports Network.
All right, I'll put that in the show notes. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes. So awesome. Thank you again. I'm Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. This has been College Football Clarity, Studio 25 Podcast Network with Creative Outposts. David Warner, producer. And I'm Steve Cully. Remember, I'm running for Congress.